I welcome you all in this lecture series, uh, Enlightening Education. We discussed about Panchakosh of a teacher, and many times it happens that we focus ourselves on student development, and always we start thinking regarding what we can do with our students, what can we do for our students, what kind of output can be there, what kind of results or what kind of development we can offer to our students. But ultimately the center who organizes the learning experiences is teacher, and teacher has to think about himself, how he can invest in himself to enrich his teachership. And enriching his teachership is very important thing, because unless we will not enrich ourselves, it will not be possible for us to deliver or to interact with our students in good communicative and productive way. That's why enrichment of teacher is very important, and the focus of yesterday's session was not development of panchakosh of our student, but how we can think about ourselves and how we can develop our skills, how we can develop our practices, how we can set our day-to-day routine, and how we can feel the joy of teaching and learning, which will ultimately help us to focus on our teachership, which will ultimately result in a better interaction with our students. In this series, on the have interaction with Dr. Anaghatai Lavadekar, and mainly she will talk with us regarding how we can enhance ourselves, how we can develop ourselves for better teachership. Anaghatai Lavadekar, she is currently heading the Jnanaprabhu's Institute of Psychology. She had done her MA and PhD in psychology, and her topic for her research was how we can enhance social awareness in our students. She is working for different aspects regarding educational psychology, mainly how we can work with our students regarding creativity, enrichment. She is interested in adult education and sex education also. She is working on emotional intelligence of students, and the main topic of her interest is quality of life. So she is working for different aspects of educational psychology, which will ultimately help us to develop ourselves as a teacher, and which will help us to develop our students to develop their personality. She has published about 18 research papers in national and international journals, and presented her papers in national and international conferences also. As a teacher, I will like to introduce her, as she had taught to school students also. She has taught history in Jnanaprabodhini school, which is situated at Pune, and she has been teaching to postgraduate students for school counseling course, and for psychology masters and graduation course. Apart from this academic interest, she is working with group of women to empower women and to organize them so that they can contribute for betterment of society. She has written many articles in newspapers and published few books also, and she is working as academician and as a volunteer, or we can say that as organizer also. So I welcome her on behalf of all of you in this meeting, and I request her to start her session. Initially, she will deliver the theme, and then we will open the session for discussion.
Yes. Thank you so much, Prashantji, and a very warm welcome and a good afternoon to all the audience that is present here in this meeting. I'm really happy to see that there are so many people, so many teachers and enthusiastic educational volunteers from Northeast region and Eastern region of India. I just went through the list of names, and it's really amazing that all of you are attending this online workshop, and it is our privilege. I mean, it is a privilege for us to get this opportunity to interact with all these enthusiastic people who want to shape nation through their teacherhood. I'm just taking this little liberty of having my tea in between, for which I was waiting for last 15 minutes so that it can warm my throat. Okay. The topic has already been introduced by Prashantji, and I can very well see that self-awareness for teacherhood is a very complicated topic, so to say, but a topic that is really very dear to my heart, because any journey starts with actually teacherhood, because we get first teachers in the form of our parents, and then slowly different people come in our lives as teachers. But our own journey also starts with this self-exploration. So it is really nice to it was a nice opportunity for me to think over this topic and try to have a dialogue on this with all of you. So I also thank the organizers in the very beginning. I'm just starting to share my slide, and then we will go ahead one by one points. Yeah, is the slideshow visible?
Yes, it is perfectly visible.
So, the search of a teacher in myself. Why this title has been given? Because in this current condition, I think the role of the teacher has really become multifaceted. And at the same time, the teacher is supposed to be a technocrat. He or she is supposed to be a information delivery agent. At the same time, taking into cognizance the difficulties of the students. So a sort of parenting role also has been bestowed. And in this current new normal that is arising, it is becoming far more challenging for the teacher population, especially because such a virtual teaching learning process was hardly imagined in Indian scenario a few years back. And we all know the sad facts that because of this, many students are actually remaining on silent mode. They are not getting proper education, or they are not able to take this education because of the lack of infrastructure and lack of various resources. And still the teacher community is finding newer and newer ways, creative ways to deal with the situation. So while doing this, if we could just give a look to how we ourselves can find out what a teacher self means, I think that will help us to come out of even this troubling situation, as well as help us to become better and evolved teachers. Yesterday, you have been oriented with the very genuine indigenous concept of Panchakosh, which is a kind of philosophical base for any kind of development, and which has been given by the Indian philosophers to the world. Now, based on a similar line, we will have a discussion on how we can search that teacher in ourselves. Though we know what is teaching, all of us, or many of you also, including me, have been in the teaching profession in this area for years together, and still we find that something is lacking. And that is, I think, very important, because that lacuna is going to help us to find out the self, the real self of a teacher in us. To start with, let us just give a thought to how teachers are viewed. Teachers are viewed in different ways. Sometimes people think that teachers are, only by compulsion somebody would take the post of a teacher. Many people think like that because they think that while thinking about a career or a very successful career path, why should one go for a teacherhood? Well, there are so many other paths which will take you to more prosperity and more fame and more power. And teachers have no power. That is one way of looking at teacherhood. And many people do have that kind of a view. But some people have a view that teachers are actually the gardeners. Teacher community is something that is shaping the futures of the next generations of individuals, of human beings in the nation. Especially Jnana Prabodhini has always thought like that. Our heroes and heroines, not in the colloquial sense of terms, but all those ideals that we are really looking forward or looking towards to get insight, like Bhagini Nivedita, who actually worked on the educational philosophy of Swami Vivekananda, has said that it is only the teachers who hold the future of a country. So there are these two kind of, completely contradictory perspectives or views how teachers are perceived by people around. Now, in this scenario, what do we think? I will just ask a very simple question to all of you, and if some of you could write it in the chat box, I will be really happy. Can you just name, apart from yourself or your colleagues, can you name one best teacher that you think you had in your childhood either, or you have seen around anywhere, maybe in the nation also? So if 4 or 5 people could, just write the name of best teacher. And I mean, it is not necessary that you have to write the, yeah, so many names are coming, and the very first name that I was expecting was about nobody but our respected APJ Abdul Kalam ji. And then father, yes. So the parents, Bhaskaracharya, mother, okay, so close to our heart, correct? Yes. Somebody has said she herself is the teacher, Radha Krishnan ji, yes. Yes. And then there might be people whom the world knows. Thank you so much. There might be some people whom many people know when you are sharing these names, and there might be some people whom not many of the current audience knows, but everybody of us has that teacher at the bottom of our heart when we choose the profession of a teacher, or when we choose to become a teacher. And I would say that I feel blessed to have got this opportunity of having education in Jnana Prabodhini Prashala. That time it was called as Jnana Prabodhini Kanyaka Prashala, because it was just started recently when I took admission in my secondary school here. And we got teachers who were not just teachers, but they were really mentors for us. I mean, they were all the youth workers who accompanied late VV Elias Appa Pense, the founder director of Jnana Prabodhini, and they were in their early adult lives, and we were in the just starting of our secondary school programs. And so there was such a beautiful bond that connected all of us together. And uh, when I dream, or when I think of myself in that position of a teacher who comes in front of my eyes, and I say that all these, the mentors who taught me in the school when they were in their just early or late 20s, these faces appear in front of me. Now, did they have a very grand education in formal education of B.Ed and M.Ed and PhD in teaching. Of course not. They came from different disciplines, but the way they taught, the way they were aware of what they were expected to do as teachers who were starting a very, very novel kind of an educational experiment, which was uh, nurtured by their teacher, that is Appa. I think that was something that has helped me personally to choose the career as a teacher psychologist and not just as a psychologist. So I think everybody of us must have thought of this question in our minds about why have I become a teacher, and before that, who am I really? Because the journey of self-awareness starts at this point itself. This is a very famous shloka written by Shankaracharya in his Charpat Panjarika Stotra, and some of you might be very familiar with it. And this is the basic question that every individual has, that who are you and who am I, and where have I come from, and who are my parents, who has given birth to me, who is taking care of me. And I would say that actually, irrespective of profession, every person has these questions in the mind, and this is the starting of our exploration of ourself. It is very interesting to see the journey of self-development. When I say I am a teacher, many times I ask myself a question, that whether I am a box in a hole or am I a hole in a box? Because everybody of us has, I know everybody of us has this childhood fantasy of becoming a teacher. And I'm sure that 90% of us in childhood must have done this game of teaching someone, played this game, or taken some old notebooks and pretended to correct them, evaluate, give marks. And that fantasy is also a kind of surge of our own perceptions regarding teacherhood. Not that everybody who does that thing or who plays that game becomes a teacher, but that is something that really fascinates us when we are a child. So in this journey of self-development, if we see, as we grow, many of you also must have studied psychology, I'm very sure of it. Slowly, our self also becomes broader and broader. When the child is very young, maybe 1.5 or 2 years old, the self is limited to his or her surrounding stimuli. In the beginning, the child is just absorbed in itself, and it doesn't really take the cognizance of the world around. But slowly, say after 6 or 7 months, when it starts recognizing people around, tries to relate with the people and the surrounding stimuli, his self starts getting developed. And then as the boundaries also get more and more advanced, they become broader, our self also takes the shape of various ways. There are different aspects of self. When we talk of self-awareness, we should try to understand what are the various types of self that we are dwelling into. There is a material self. When I say material self, it is a self that relates or that gives us the information about everything that can be seen, heard, touched, sensed with the help of our sensory organs. So we have our own self-image about how I look, how I talk, how am I dressed. Along with this, we also have this self-image about our material possessions. as we grow older, when we become adult, even in this journey, this material self also goes on developing. And I say that, okay, I have these things with me, or I'm dressed like this. I'm in possession of these goods. And as adults, then we may have our own self, which is interpreted in terms of all the material possessions that we have, the property that we have, the goods that we have. That is also a very important part of our self. But I would say a part of self through which one should grow out. But still, some of it remains. The other aspect of self is the emotional self. We also are quite aware of what is happening inside us, just as we are aware of what is happening with respect to our material existence. We also are very sensitive to what is happening in our minds. What are my emotions? What is my emotional nature? Am I a very cool person? Am I a very anxious person? Am I a very kind of submissive person, frightened person, a very confident person? Am I a very joyful, joyous person? Irrespective of the ups and downs of emotions that we experience throughout our life, we have a emotional self which talks about our emotional nature. We also have an achiever self. Just like the material possessions that we have a very strong sense of ourselves as someone who has achieved some concrete thing. So when we as teachers, we look at ourselves, we may say that, yes, I have stood first in my B.Ed examination, or I was the best cadet in my institute, or I am at XYZ position right now. I have this kind of power in my hands. And all these are also part of ourselves. We have a belongingness self, which helps us to relate to other people, which is a very common thing in the society like India, which is a very collective mind society. And even beyond all these types of selves, we have a spiritual self, which helps us to connect all these earlier selves together and resolve the conflicts that are arising out of this self-awareness. That spiritual self is something that is very important. And if we could really get the feel of what our spiritual self is, I think that our achiever self or our professional self also we will be able to handle with a lot of grace and success. So when we talk of this journey of self-development, we are in multiple roles. Sometimes we are a family member, sometimes we are a professional, as I mentioned, sometimes we are somebody who's listening to someone else. And these roles need to be complementary. Then that feeling of self-awareness becomes very integrated. I will just narrate a very interesting story to you how this self, we are in the search of completion of ourself or that self-image. Some of you might have heard the story of or the name of Iravati Karve, who was a very famous anthropologist in the last century. She was the first woman anthropologist in India, and coming from a very progressive family, she was the daughter-in-law of Maharshi Dhondo Keshav Karve, who actually boosted the movement of women education in Maharashtra, in Pune itself. And she, you can imagine that in the mid 50s, in the last century, the social situation was like women were not so much out in public domain, and Iravati Karve was a public figure. So apart from being an anthropologist, because she was also contributing in education, she used to get opportunities to grace different programs and give lectures and so many other things. So she was quite famous, and she always used to think that, okay, this is myself. There is a very beautiful article written by her which we used to have when we were children in our school syllabus, and I'm just narrating that experience from that article. So she had this feeling that, okay, I'm somebody who is really known. Wherever I go, people know my name. They identify me with my tags, all my whatever awards were given to her, and she was given so many other titles, etc. But then still there is something that is lacking behind. This is not my complete self. And then one day, so happened that she was walking on the road, and she was passing by the school in which her son was taking education. He was in the primary standards, and the school bell rang, and children were rushing out of the gate, and she was walking on the road alongside the school, and some child from the group pointed out towards her and loudly said, "Look at her, she is the mother of our Dinu." And I tell you that she has written with such a passion in that article. She said that there I found out that, yes, now self my self image, or my identity, as she quotes it, parichay, olak, my identity was now fulfilled. Now I know who I am. So there are some such points of or glimpses of realization when we find out that we are an integrated self of so many roles, and teacherhood is one of them. But because it is our profession, it is a very profound role, it is a very profound part of ourself, and we need to cater it with lot of care. In Hindi, dahi jamana, in Marathi we call it as virzan. So how do we do this? All of you know how the curd is prepared. That you just take one bowl of milk, a full bowl of milk, and in that bowl, what you do is you just put small amount of curd from your home, that culture, and mix it thoroughly. And after mixing, what happens? Even that small 1/4 tablespoon of curd, within a period of time, say around 8, 9, 12 hours, depending on the climatic conditions, it turns that milk into curd. And I'm really very much in love with this simile, or this kind of comparison of a teacher with the curd. Even just a small interaction of a teacher is essential and enough to turn that whole bowl of milk, that is the student class, into the curd. So you just spread that culture and it gets converted. But then that culture should be very pure, uncontaminated. It should act as a catalyst. If you add more, the curd will become sour. If you add less, the process will not take place easily. So it is just that right amount of curd that is put in the milk turns that milk into a very tasty curd. Right amount of intervention by the teacher is going to help the children to become like the teacher. Why? Because every teacher, including me, definitely thinks that the students are, in a way, extension of my own. Of course, they are going to have their own identities. But what I need to give them is, first of all, I should find out what I have, what I am. If I am able to find it out, if I am able to perceive myself better, I'm also going to perceive my students properly, tap their potentials and help them to bloom. So just as the milk, when it gets converted into curd, has no separate existence, but in every drop of that milk, converted milk, the curd is present. The same learning process is to be adopted by the teacher, and for that, understanding oneself is very much essential. Now the question comes here, the basic question as to why have I chosen to be a teacher? If I want to understand myself as a teacher, I should very well understand my motive of becoming a teacher. So I'm not going to give any explanations to these questions. These are questions which I think that I'm just putting forth in front of you to ponder over. Some of you might have already thought about it, and you can share that in the later discussion or the WhatsApp chat that you are going to have, and we will be really happy to know about it. Because this is the way this interaction, this whole interaction is going to help us to become excellent teachers. So why was I teacher? Why have I taken this decision to become a teacher? Some of you may say that, yes, my parents were teacher, and so that has a lot of influence on me, and so I decided to become a teacher. So initially the reason might be different. Why have I chosen to be a teacher at the beginning, and why do I continue as a teacher even today? This whole journey will give us a sort of reflection of our own decision making process. Because if we are aware of this decision making process of why we have become teachers, maybe we can pass it over to some of our students who also have similar qualities. And we think that, yes, they can be good teachers. Many times we hear this discussion in the people around, that why this new generation is having a lot of quote unquote issues in different ways, because they don't get good teachers. Why don't they get good teachers? Because good children or capable children do not want to become teachers. Why do good children do not want to become teachers? Because they are not influenced by their teachers for their decision making when it comes to career choice. They are influenced by designers, they are influenced by media people, they are influenced by other corporate people. But does any teacher influence the student in a way that the student thinks that I should become a teacher like him or her? Yes, that is my dream. I think that if we are convinced about our decision of becoming a teacher, how did we get that conviction? We definitely need to share with our students. For that, we need to finalize it at our own, at the bottom of our own mind. We also have to think about our capabilities. What are my capabilities as a teacher? All of you must be aware about that very famous phrase of SWOT analysis. So as a teacher, what is my SWOT? What are the things that are stronger in me? What are the things I need to inculcate? And then comes the opportunities. How do I take this opportunity? Have I checked my abilities objectively? Am I looking forward to different opportunities to grow as a teacher? In Marathi, we have one poet who talks about the monotony of work. It may happen many times that when we are in the teaching profession, there are so many mechanical tasks that we are supposed to do, and I'm really aware of that. Though I myself never worked in a government school or a government aided school or even in private schools with a big establishment, I do understand that there are so many duties that are, given on the shoulders of the teachers, that they many times think that, okay, this is actually, this is not my job, but why am I doing this? And then there are helpless kind of reactions from the teacher community. But at the same time, we also have to see as to, from that whole burden, am I trying to really find out some opportunities, some niche areas wherein as a teacher I can grow myself? And many of you, I'm aware that you must have taken up new courses, sharpened your teaching techniques through various things. Now that in this last 1.5 years, everybody of you must have now started using computers for online teaching, mobiles for online teaching. So mastering that technical application, preparing PPTs, etc. So I think the pandemic in a way has really given this opportunity, even if we keep away all the damage that it has done for a while. The teacher community has really got this unseen and kind of unexpected opportunity of tackling with the future learning processes. How do we find these opportunities? Now this lecture series also, I think it is kind of opportunity for everybody of us, for me to crystallize my own thoughts while discussing it with you people, and all of you to take a little break out of your routine teaching learning job and give this a significant time so that you can start that reflective process inside you. Now this last question is very important. What is my dream as a teacher? What do I want to happen? Can any one of you just, few of you, just like the earlier question that I asked, in 3 or 4 words, in just one sentence, crispily jot down, what is your dream as a teacher? We'll just go through the responses that are given by some of our representative audience. So what is the dream as a teacher? Do I really have this dream of my role as a teacher? What kind of teacher do I want to become? Yes, a few of you. Would anyone like to just raise hand and respond instead of writing? Okay, my students should love me, admire and love me. Great. So some of you want to become loving teachers. Some of you want to become effective teachers. Can you become more objective about when you say effective teaching? What does it mean? Uska matlab kya hai? Make a difference, okay? Positively influence students more and more, okay? Okay, to create the teachers who build nation, okay? So just the way I mentioned in the earlier point. Students' progressive development. Okay, I think now the process has started. Leave positive impact, lasting impression of us, yes. Very nice. So the process has already started. Everybody of us has a dream. And I think that is what matters more when we are talking about awareness, self-awareness of a teacher. Yes, and you can keep on writing, please do, because this is going to get recorded. We will be able to see all these chats later on. So everybody of us has a dream as a teacher, and unless and until we cherish that dream, we cannot cherish that self in ourselves, the teacher self in ourselves, because then once we have that dream in front of us, however vague it may be, slowly it will get unfolded in front of us. And then what we do is, when we have a dream, we check our each step of whether we are going towards that dream or not, isn't it? And for that checking, what we need to do is, we need to probe ourselves. So now, in the light of all these dreams that you have shared, let us just try to check our own teacher self. Now, the very first question that a teacher needs to ask oneself is that, am I the title that I hold? Some of us may be teachers, associate teachers, assistant teachers. Some of us may be vice principals, principals. Some of us may be counselors. Some of us may be PhD holders, that is doctorates, educationists. What are all these words? They are all the titles that we hold. So what I mentioned as my achiever self. And it may happen that because these titles are so heavy, and they give us a profound identity in the community around us, there is a sort of inclination of many teachers to clutch these titles, to cling to them. I remember one of our teachers in the university, just a interesting, though funny kind of experience I'm sharing with all of you, that this teacher, she was a very good teacher in delivering her topics. And in the university, whenever we used to meet her or go to her or take somebody with us and introduce her, she was very particular in mentioning her doctoral degree. So whenever some of us may mistakenly introduced her as just by her name, she used to be very disturbed and sometimes even angry at us, saying that, you know that I am a doctorate person, you should call me Dr. So-and-so. Fine. So in the university campus, that was just okay, because definitely she had that identity in that campus. But 2-3 times I met her at a very general function, which was sort of family function, family get together. And I found out, I was observing her, and I found out that she was equally hard enough, even in these functions, that people should call her with her title. Now, I found it very strange, because I thought that these two situations were different, and you have different roles at different situations. So why should you cling to that title so hard, that you should get introduced with that title? Now, this is just a funny experience that I mentioned, that there are people who are so much bound to their titles. And what may happen is that, as a teacher, if I'm bound to my title, that is whether I am a doctorate or whether I'm a B.Ed or D.Ed or whether I'm a vice principal or an assistant teacher, many times we also get fixated to that particular role in that classroom situation, and then we may fail to understand our children or relate to our children outside that role. And I think that that is very important. That's why I narrated my experience as a child when I took admission in Jnanaprabodhini Prashala. And our teachers were not our teachers. They were teachers in the classroom. They were very strict with us in the classroom. They were very creative while teaching their topics. But outside the classroom, they were just our elder friends. And when I say elder friends, it was not just the small gap of age that we had in between us, but beyond that, they did not hold that title. So I think that is very important, that flexibility, we should find out whether we have that flexibility and are thinking beyond our titles as teachers. The second topic or second point also I think is very important, because when we say that we want the children to follow our footsteps, or many of you have mentioned your dream as to make your students capable enough to become excellent individuals, good civilians, duty bound persons, then what is going to reflecting them? The reflection is going to be from our side. So what we want our students to become as a person, we should be able to see that characteristic in us first. How much do I stand true to it? And it may be related to habits, it may be related to values, it may be related to various skills. And it may happen that some of these skills or some of these habits, as children, we were not able to shape. And so while talking to the children, or while transferring these skills to the children, we may fall short of something. But if we are transparent enough to accept it and improve, even inch further, I think that that will definitely do justice to our role as a teacher. And then we can say convincingly or confidently that yes, I follow what I preach, I follow what I teach. Because we want our children to be experimentative. They should keep on doing experimentations. They should keep on learn through self-learning mode. Do I follow the self-learning mode? These are some hard questions, but I think we should be able to answer them. Then the third question is also very important, because as a teacher, when we are looking at ourselves, this is something that the surrounding environment has given us the title that teacher is a knowledge bank. All information should be with the teacher, and the teacher should keep on giving the information to the students. I think that now in this last few years, and especially in the last 1.5 years, when knowledge, rather information in form of information is spilling over, it is spilling over through all the internet and media and whatever channel we can find. So it is getting exported very easily. If we confine ourselves to just remaining knowledge banks or exporters of knowledge, I think we are doing a large injustice with our own capacities, because we can go so much beyond it. So are we trying to go beyond it, or we are just confining ourselves to information banks, knowledge banks, and just exporting them through PPTs and through other things? Because in the coming era, I'm sure many visionaries have already pointed it out, and I'm really convinced about it, that the coming era is going to be governed by skills and not by information. It is going to be governed by services and not content, because content is available everywhere. What a teacher needs to do is help the child to choose selectively what content is going to be useful for him or her, to what extent, how that can be processed to make it a better realizing kind of information, piece of information, rather than just copy pasting things around. So as a teacher, if I myself am not practicing this process or knowledge processing and just confining myself to remain to a information bank, then I think I'm doing a lot of injustice to my own capacities as a teacher, as well as to my dream as a good teacher. Sometimes I also have to ask myself a question as to, am I a slave of my duty timings? There was an era when people were working 10 to 5, 9 to 4, 12 to 6. Now that era is gone also for many other professions, but that is because of different reasons. That is because people have mixed up their work and home now, workplaces and homes. But for a teacher, I think right from the beginning, the ideal teachers' timings were never framed in any way. I have seen teachers around me who have really gone beyond their duty timings and done so many things for their students. Small things, not very big things. But these tasks that they did without restricting their minds to the duty timing, because it is not just the clock that restricts your timing, it is the mind that restricts your timing. So I remember a teacher in Pune, in one of the schools. He himself had come from a very rural background, studied in the night school, got his degree, started working as a peon, as a clerk, and later on evolved as an excellent teacher in one of the leading schools in Pune, became a vice principal. Now, in all this journey, what connected him with the students was his motivation, or that um, urge to connect to the students beyond the duty timings. So he used to take a round every evening in the corridors of the school, and he found out that there were some students who were still lingering behind in the corridors, and asked them why were they lingering. And the students said that because they came from families where they hardly had any space to do their homework, they were trying to complete it in the school corridors, and he knew it. When they were sincere students, it was not just a fake kind of thing. But he saw that they were there, they were trying to complete their task as a student, but they were not having enough space at home, so they had to stay back in the schools. But the school's corridors were quite dark in the evenings, and the students had a difficulty. Now this teacher, because he did not consider the duty timing as his job, what he did was he specially got a fund sanctioned from the school authorities for these children, for one class where extra bulbs, extra light was provided. And all these students, they started doing their homework after their school timing, sitting in that classroom. But that was not the end. Every day, this teacher used to visit those students and really see what they were doing. So beyond just making the facilities available to these students, he also looked into their continuity. What I call beyond duty timings is like this. Many of us do these kinds of things, and that is how the children connect to us. If we just try to remember our own good teachers in the school, I'm sure that the image that comes to your mind is of one teacher or two teachers who never thought that 10 to 5 was their duty timing. Those teachers who catered the needs of their students without considering that duty frame are better remembered. And it is not just for getting better remembered, but these are the teachers who easily pass on their value systems and their thought processes to the children as well. So I think that these kinds of restrictions regarding duty timings, are they interfering in my teacherhood, is a question worth thinking of. So where can I find my teacherhood? I think that I can find my teacherhood in my studenthood. So if I look back, kind of review back, just as we do when we are looking movies or serials on the Instagram or Amazon, and we use the remote to rewind back whatever we had missed. Can we rewind ourselves a little back, go to our studenthood and find out what we had perceived best in our teachers and what we had found out as lacking in our teachers at that time, and thought that, okay, if I was a teacher, I would have done this. I think there is this place where we can find our teacherhood, and slowly it will unfold. So the question comes here where I want to actually bridge or synchronize that ideal image of teacher in myself and the real image of myself as a teacher today. As a psychologist, I would definitely say that there are going to remain some gaps. If we pretend to be ideal teachers, it is a very grave mistake, because ideals are always, they are above our head, and we have to look towards them and start keep our journeys on that route. But we can definitely try to bridge the gap in between and synchronize whatever we are doing. So this congruence in what we think ourselves as teachers, what we feel ourselves as teachers, and how actually we are behaving, how we are dealing with our students and with the community as a teacher, this congruence matters a lot. Why this congruence matters? Because in the society around us, we many times find out that there are discrepancies. There are a lot of discrepancies. There might be teachers, now I'm sure that all of us are really trying hard to have this congruence, but I have seen some teachers who, in the Zilla Parishad schools, when we used to go for testing, psychological testing, that they used to sit on their chairs, give the whole some kind of classwork to the students, and then they were busy in going through some magazine. Now this is a very crude example of discrepancy, but there might be subtle discrepancies also. Like, I want my students to follow a particular value system, and I myself may fail to follow it out of many reasons, but do I really see that discrepancy? Now, why these discrepancies are seen? Because many times we try to defend ourselves, we try to guard our own image, our ego. As human beings, all of us are fallible, but we are not agreeing upon that, and we say that no, I am a perfect teacher and I can't fail. Or we don't treat ourselves as human beings, but we treat ourselves as masters, saying that no, nothing can be wrong in my behavior. And we have number of justifications and rationales behind these kinds of discrepancies. So I think that if we want to have our self, teacher self, a very healthy self, we have to learn to confront ourselves. It's like mind mirroring. So if we confront ourselves in even smaller situations, that as a teacher, was I correct in dealing with XYZ issue, or do I need to take somebody's guidance? Do I need to say sorry to my students? Very difficult, but very essential at times. If I expect my students to say sorry to me for something that they have done, for some mistake that they have committed, am I courageous enough to take the same stand and say from the bottom of my heart, I'm really sorry that I did this and I never intended to harm, but I'm ready to learn from my mistake, and now I will definitely think some other thing to deal with this. So if we are able to confront ourselves, I think that is the most courageous thing that we can do as teachers. And then we need to also face the challenges. Especially now, I think all of us are facing this challenge in the pandemic way, to learn new ways, to teach, to connect, to even evaluate students, because earlier we were evaluating them face to face. Now we have to evaluate them virtually and prepare new tasks for it. So it's kind of, a servicing or overoiling kind of thing, as we call it in mechanical terms. It's like overoiling ourselves. So challenges definitely we need to face in teaching, learning process, in personal lives, in teacher-student relationships. And then we try to reach to our image, our ideal image as a teacher. If we really try to do all this and become, try to assess ourselves, become more aware about that, then what we call is Guru is the university of acculturation, or in itself a man-making Gurukul. Any teacher who is going beyond the restricted teaching learning process in itself is a man-making Gurukul, and we have seen so many such gurus around us. And all of us try to learn from them. Why? Because they have students' holistic well-being at the center. It is not just whether my students have remembered this formula or not, whether my student is going to become a good human being or not. Our founder director Appa used to say that every teacher should teach national problems through his or her topics. Now this concept is a very difficult concept to understand. How can a language teacher talk about national problems? But yes, we can talk about national problems of various languages that are getting extinct. It's a national problem. Can I address that? Can I make my children see, as a country, what are the various problems that are arising out of language conflicts? Yes. So any teacher can actually teach national issues. They may not be necessarily problems, but they may be also points of pride. Can we address that? Can we connect our society to the children through our teaching, through our topic? I think that is a very challenging task that was put forth in front of the teachers at Jnana Prabodhini, and many of our teachers, we have seen that they could achieve it. So the student's holistic well-being is at the center. He or she should get emotionally well developed. He or she should get socially well developed, not just getting rank. And how does that happen? When, as teachers, we have that empathy and connect. We think that students are our larger selves. They are not different from us. They are just the extensions of ourselves. So if they gain, we gain. If they are in pain, we are in pain. I understand that practically it is not 100% possible, but at least on the psychological level, if we can cherish that, I think the students get very well connected with the teachers, and then that transfer of insight can take place. And as I mentioned, that if I want to produce something concrete through my teacherhood, I have to be vigilant enough to track it, whether it is happening or not. That is also the exploration of my own self as a teacher. Am I on the track? Am I really going towards it? Is there something missing? So admitting this, that I as a teacher need to be aware about my own self in different ways, accept whatever are the lacunas, and keep myself moving ahead through that intrinsic motivation rather than depending on somebody else to praise me or give some award. And these things may come over, these things may be there on our way, but they may not be the necessities for us to keep functioning. So I think for a teacher who really wants to become a whole teacher in his or her life, we have no choice to intrinsic motivation. Nothing can stop us but ourselves from becoming such teachers. So finally, I think that what matters is, as teachers, when we look at our own self, our integrity is something that really makes a difference. So bridging the gap between our real and ideal teacherhood, our own devotion as a change agent, and we should be very well aware of that, that we are just agents. We cannot rule what we are changing. We cannot govern the change in the students. We can just facilitate it. That is my perception about myself as a teacher. If that is there, then that devotion will come. And of course, my vision that is reflected through my students. Whatever I see for future, am I really handing it over to the students or not? I think these three things are very important, right from developing the natural flow of self-development. We have discussed about how teachers can think of their own self in a very broader perspective. At the same time, by micro-analyzing or looking at very small things, small behaviors, small roles as teachers in the life of their students, in the life of our students. I think that if we could, cater with all this and really keep on this reflection mode, as nowadays we call as, it should be on mode, not an off mode. So if we could keep our antennas straight, tight, and keep ourselves on mode of self-reflection through enhanced self-awareness about ourselves as teachers, all of us will definitely make a difference. And I think that is why we are here. That is why we have gathered under this platform of enlightened teachership or teacherhood. And this is how I could share my thoughts with all of you regarding the topic. I'm just concluding my topic here. And thank you very much for giving me a patient listening. If there are any queries, you can just go ahead with the queries if time permits, or otherwise I just hand over these sessions keys to the arrangers. Thank you very much once again.
Namaskar. Myself, Harkabadur Chetri from Vivekananda Kendra Vidyalaya Sadia. It was very wonderful and nice session, as we have with our Honorable Didi. One question
Thank you
is
so
there.
much.
This whatever Didi has suggested or guide us, it generally happens to all general students. My question is, for the weaker students, especially in rural areas, their parents, their backgrounds are very meager, very very not with financial good sound. So in that type of children, how we can give good education, or how we can bring them a very nice student, because this whatever Didi has suggested, give us a suggestion, guidance, it was very nice and very fruitful. My question is, those students who are very poor from background, their village areas, very poor from their by birth also. So if any sorts of suggestion, Didi will suggest or
Yes.
bless us, it
So
will
I
be
would say,
good. Thank you. This
I
much
would
my
say,
view.
Mr. Kshatriya, I understood your question. I do admit, मुझे ये पता है कि जो मैंने आज अभी बोला है आपके सबके साथ, वो थोड़ा फिलोसॉफिकल है ज्यादा, यानी उसमें ज्यादा हमने अपने खुद के बारे में बात की है, राइट? तो इसके कारण उसको प्रैक्टिकल में कैसे लाया जाए, इसके बारे में डेफिनेटली आप सबको क्वाइट कुछ ना कुछ सवाल मन में उभरे होंगे। तो मैं एक दो बातें उसके बारे में कहूंगी, और अभी जो एक सवाल यहाँ पे आया है, मैं थोड़ा हिंदी में स्विच हो रही हूँ ताकि और थोड़ा आपसे क्लोज जाके बात कर सकूं। तो एक और सवाल यहाँ पे जो आया है कि हम सिस्टम में काम करते हैं, और अगर सिस्टम का हेल्प नहीं है, सिस्टम का सपोर्ट नहीं है, तो हम कैसे बदलेंगे? तो मेरे ख्याल से इन दोनों सवालों का एक जवाब ऐसा हो सकता है कि जो मैंने अपने प्रेजेंटेशन में बताया था कि जब तक हम अपने किसी टाइटल को, अपनी उपाधि को जब तक हम पकड़े हुए हैं, तब तक ये नहीं होगा। जैसे कि मैंने अभी बताया कि विवेकानंद केंद्र की जो शालाएं हैं नॉर्थ ईस्ट में खास करके, तो वहां के जो शिक्षक हैं, मुझे पता है, मैंने ऐसे कई शालाओं में वहां पे जाके कुछ क्लासेस भी लिए थे कुछ साल पहले, छोटे स्टडी टूर में। तो वो जो सब टीचर्स है, आप जैसे सब टीचर्स, तो आपका जो पेरेंट्स के साथ कनेक्ट है, उस कनेक्ट में अगर आप उनको ये कन्विंस कर सके कि हम टीचर्स है लेकिन हम आप जैसे ही हैं, विचारों में आप जैसे हैं, बर्ताव में आप जैसे हैं, तो शायद जो पेरेंट्स खुल के बात नहीं कर रहे हैं वो आपसे खुल के बात करेंगे। और जो स्टूडेंट्स बहुत विपरीत परिस्थिति से आते हैं, खास करके जैसे आपने बोला कि सोशो इकोनॉमिक स्टेटस जिनका बहुत डिफिकल्ट है, तो उनके लिए सिस्टम से कुछ ना कुछ आपको जरूर मेरे ख्याल से हेल्प मिल सकती है, लेकिन उनकी परिस्थिति समझ के उनके साथ बातें करना, ये अगर आप एक टीचर की हैसियत से कर सके, और मेरा विश्वास है कि आप कर रहे होंगे, तो उसको थोड़ा समय लगेगा लोगों को आपके बारे में ये विश्वास मन में पैदा होने के लिए कि ये शिक्षक होते हुए भी हम जैसे ही है, मतलब हमारा दर्द समझते हैं, हमारी जो लिमिटेशंस है वो समझते हैं। ये एहसास जब हम उन्हें शिक्षक की भूमिका से दे सकेंगे, तो मेरे ख्याल से वो बच्चों को भी एक तरीके से एक सिक्योरिटी, एक सेफ फीलिंग आ जाएगा कि यहाँ पे हमसे कोई ऐसा बर्ताव नहीं करने वाला है, डिस्क्रिमिनेशन नहीं करने वाला है, या हमें जो भी चीजें लगती है उनके बारे में हम खुल के बात कर सकते हैं हमारे टीचर से। तो ये विश्वास मेरे ख्याल से आना चाहिए। और जो दूसरा सवाल था सिस्टम के बारे में, तो मुझे ऐसा लगता है स्वाति जी कि सिस्टम तो अपनी जगह रहने वाला है। सिस्टम को बदलना ये एक बहुत बड़ी चीज है और वो बहुत स्लो प्रोसेस है। लेकिन जैसे मैंने अभी कहा कि अगर मेरी इंटीग्रिटी जो है टीचर के रोल में, वो अगर अच्छी तरह से मैं मेंटेन कर सकती हूँ, तो सिस्टम में जहां जहां भी थोड़ी भी जगह मिले, वेर एवर आई फाइंड इवन स्मॉल गैप, आई कैन फंक्शन एज अ टीचर वेल। I'm completely agreeing with you that we cannot topple the system, we cannot change it overnight. लेकिन अभी जो बदलाव हमने देखे हैं पिछले कई सालों में, सिस्टम में भी देखे हैं कई जगहों पे, जहां पे ऐसे मोटिवेटेड और जैसे मैंने अभी कहा कि सेल्फ अवेयर, सेल्फ कन्विंस टीचर्स का गुट बढ़ता है, वहां सिस्टम को भी बदलना पड़ता है। So I think our responsibility is to gather like-minded people together or make other people like-minded as far as possible. So I think that might be one of the solutions. Again, it is a time-consuming solution, but we have to believe in it. That is what I think. I hope I have answered the questions for both of you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
I want to ask a small question. The question is like that. In the session, very beautiful example, Didi has shared her own experience with one of the staff in the university, having the problem with the title doctor.
Yeah.
And the same time also, Didi has told that sometimes when the students make mistake, we compel them to ask sorry. But when we make some mistakes, we hesitate to ask sorry in front of the students.
Yes.
My question is like that. There are people in the society,
Hmm.
they give utmost importance to the title, like the doctor, principal, vice principal, etc.
Yes.
But when the work comes, they never give importance to the works.
Hmm.
Whenever any introduction session or somewhere else, if it happens by the slip of the tongue, if somebody cannot utter the title doctor or Sri, it hurts them. How
Yes.
to motivate that person?
Hmm.
First, to give importance to the work, not to the designation, not to that title.
Correct.
What
Very
we should
important
do
question.
to convince to the
Yes.
people, because their ego may be within me also, maybe somebody
Yes.
else, they are not expressing, I am expressing.
Yes.
And
Yes.
in the practical experience, teaching experience of 20 years, I have felt that one. There are some
Yes.
persons in the society, because doctor
Yes.
has not told means it has, that means my dignity has been neglected. They feel it.
Correct.
But how to convince that people? Did you please clarify these things?
I got that point. Now there are 2-3 ways in making such people aware of the position that they are taking. One is thing, I think that जिनको ऐसे लगता है कि जैसे हमारे अपने जैसे अभी कहा कि आपके कोई कलीग है और उनको अच्छा लगता है कि जब उन्हें कोई प्रेस करता है, उनके अचीवमेंट कोई प्रेस करता है, उनके टाइटल के बारे में कोई बोलता है और वो स्ट्रिक्ट है कि नहीं वैसे करना चाहिए, तो ठीक है, यू कैन एक्सेप्ट दैट एज अ ह्यूमन बीइंग. हम हमारे बारे में बोल रहे हैं तो अगर हम अपना टाइटल छोड़ सकते हैं तो उससे अच्छा है, मतलब ये एक अच्छी बात है. लेकिन अगर हमारे कलीग में से किसी को ऐसी जरूरत है कि उसका ईगो उससे सेटिस्फाई होता है, तो एकदम से उसका विरोध करना है ऐसे नहीं करना चाहिए कि अच्छा ठीक है, उसको ऐसे बोल के उनका काम हो रहा है तो वैसे होने दो. दूसरी बात ऐसी है कि उनको जिससे जॉय मिलता है वो चीज वो करने के लिए ज्यादा मोटिवेट होंगे. तो टाइटल कहने से या ऐसा प्रेस करने से उनको जो आनंद मिलता है, उसी प्रकार का आनंद अगर कोई और अलग सी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी उनके ऊपर देकर उनको हम एहसास करा सके, if we could help that person to function in some other way and find out that there is joy in doing something even without a title, then that realization comes automatically. Okay, so for that we may have to do some experimentation, some trial and error, and also some or the other way, directly or indirectly, talk about this कि उसको पकड़ने से कुछ नहीं आनंद मिलने वाला है, उसको छोड़ने से ज्यादा आनंद मिलने वाला है. लेकिन ये उपदेश के तौर पर अगर हम करें तो इट माइट बी टेकन इन सम अदर वे, इट माइट नॉट बी टेकन इन अ स्पोर्टिव मैनर. सो अगर उनको ऐसा अनुभव ही कुछ दे, मे बी किसी ऐसे व्यक्ति से मिलने का अनुभव दे कि जो व्यक्ति ऐसा है कि जो टाइटल के परे है, तो अपने आप में बात समझ में आ सकती है. या कोई ऐसा अनुभव बच्चों के साथ दे कि जहां पे उनको उनका टाइटल बाजू रख के ही काम करना है, तो उनको मालूम पड़ जाता है कि अरे मैं डॉक्टर हूं या नहीं हूं, इसका मेरे अभी जो मैंने किया बच्चों के साथ जो एक बहुत मजे की एक्टिविटी की, उससे कोई ताल्लुकात नहीं है, कोई मतलब नहीं है. तो इस प्रकार के कुछ एक्सपीरियंसेस देना, डिजाइन करना अगर आपके बस में है, मतलब आप अगर उस प्रकार का पोर्टफोलियो भी रखते हैं तो आप ऐसा भी कर सकते हैं. या फिर मैंने जैसे कहा कि धीरे धीरे उनको ये कन्विंस करना, पहले जो उनको अच्छा लगता है उससे अगर काम बनता है तो बनने दीजिए, धीरे धीरे उनको उसमें जो मतलब ऐसे टाइटल से या किसी पदवी से अकड़े रहने की या जकड़े रहने की जरूरत नहीं है. ये धीरे धीरे आप उनको बातों बातों में भी समझा सकते हैं. लेकिन उपदेश अगर करने लगे तो मेरा ख्याल है कोई नहीं सुनेगा.
थैंक यू दीदी.
मेरा ख्याल है आपका कुछ तो जवाब आपको मिल गया है, जैसे मैंने मतलब जो मेरे मन में आया वो मैंने बता दिया.
Yes, Didi, I got your point.
Yeah.
Yes, so I think we should conclude our today's session because we have reached our time limit. So first of all, I would like to thank Anagha Tai for taking out her time and delivering a wonderful speech in front of all of us. So who am I? As I said yesterday, is a very popular question in philosophy, and exploring this I or self is very important. Anagha Tai very beautifully explained or presented that process specifically for the teacher. With the beautiful simile of the curd, she explained the very crucial role of the teacher in students' life. How do we identify ourselves? By our motives, capabilities, degrees, or anything other? Or a combination of all of these? Can we be flexible regarding our identity as we have to play different roles at different places? Anagha Tai has answered all of these questions for us. We talked about the congruence among thought, emotion, behavior, discrepancies, facing challenges, confronting ourselves, and all the other efforts made by us to synchronize that ideal and real image of the teacher. Also talked about the teachers who are beyond conventional definition of teaching and how they are man-making gurukuls in themselves. And finally, she gave us 3 points to give a deep thought about, which were integrity as human, devotion as change agents, and vision, which is reflecting through our students. So I guess she has gave us very, very much points to think upon as we are going through this session of enlightening education, where how should we enlighten ourselves as teachers. So again, I thank Anagha Tai from all our behalf. So thank you very much, Anagha Tai.